How's it going, guys? I'm sure you've seen it in the background on a few of these videos, but today's video is going to be about my 1928 Model A. I'll just start at the beginning. My dad, he was 12 years old, living in Texas. My grandparents were missionaries. They were going back and forth between Mexico and Texas. And he wanted to buy a car. Well, no, he wanted to buy a golf cart. And my grandpa said, no, you should spend your money on a car. So they ended up finding this car, and it was being used as a chicken coop and had bullet holes in the door and all that stuff. And I'm gonna try and dig up the photos because I have photos of this thing apart in their backyard when they were painting it back in the 70s. And they're pretty cool photos. My grandpa and my dad fixed this thing up in their backyard, took it down to the frame, what it looks like in the photos, and put it back together, gave it like basically backyard restoration. I don't think they touched much mechanically besides like getting it running and getting it ready to go. I know for a fact they took it in some parades and stuff locally, but we can fast forward several years. My dad hung on to the car this whole time, and I was turning about 12 or 13 years old, and he said, I was always bugging him about this Model A. So I said, hey, Dad, can we get that thing going? And he's like, yeah, you're the same age I was when I got it going. So yeah, let's do it. My entire memory to this point was this thing sitting under a tarp or tucked in the back corner of the garage or something. We went through it. I mean, it wasn't seized or anything. It was just like getting an old car running, like a little barn find revival. We got the thing running. I'm probably 13 years old. He's the same age he was when they got the thing running, so that's kind of cool. We cruised it around a little bit, had our fun. Then it got parked for a long time. Well, not a long time, okay. It felt like a long time to me at the time. Probably a few years, because I was on my driver's permit, and I said, hey Dad, can we get that thing going again? And he's like, yeah. Why don't we teach you how to drive a stick shift on this thing? So I'm like, oh, okay. That'd be a cool story. We got it going again. Wasn't a huge deal. I think it was missing spark. We ended up putting a coil on it. He was driving it a little bit, and we lived on this little private drive thing, tiny little road. And we were driving up and down this thing, and he was teaching me how to do it. And it was more like driving a tractor than a car. Not a very good, like, hey, here's how to drive a stick shift. Gives you the concept, not really the feel, because no synchros, none of that good stuff. So, but I'm really happy that this car was my first stick shift because it makes a really cool story. And after that, it probably sat again for, I don't know, let's see, probably 10 more years. And unfortunately, we lost my dad in 2017. So I inherited the car. He always told me that I would get this car, and he made me promise not to chop it up and turn it into a hot rod, rat rod, blah, blah, blah. And I always wanted to do what we talked about doing with it a couple years before he passed. I talked to him about what we should do with the Model A. And I said, well, what if we do a little bit of traditional stuff to it, like the wire wheels, drop it a little bit, put a couple parts on it, make it so it can keep up with modern day traffic so we can just hop in and go for a ride. And he thought that was a good idea. We just never made it around to it. So one of the very first things I did when I realized that I was getting this car, we went and pulled it out of his friend's barn where he had it stored, took it to a buddy of mine's shop, because I didn't have a place I could work on it. Just started playing with it, started getting stuff done. We got it running again, like drove around the neighborhood, had some fun with it, and then kind of parked it and picked away at it for a couple years and stuff. And in that time, I've managed to get some stuff done. I got the 35 Ford wire wheels on it. I got reverse eye leaf springs front and rear. I built this manifold for it with the Holley 94 downdraft carb, split exhaust. I just decided to go homemade because it's like old hot rod stuff. And I think homemade is cool and it's way cheaper, which I like too. So as it sits right now, I've got the project that I want to take care of today is I want to redo the fuel lines, because with the downdraft carb, I have a 6-volt electric pump under the floor so that it comes out of the tank down under the floor into a filter, into a pump, back up, back through the firewall, out of the factory sediment bowl. So under the hood, you don't see anything that looks like out of place. I wanted to keep the sediment bowl on the firewall, keep it looking traditional as possible. But I made the fuel lines the wrong size. They're made out of 5/16 and I needed to do 3/8. And once I got it together, this thing leaked fuel at the fittings at the gas tank and the firewall sediment bowl, because the tube nuts were the wrong size for the line. So I got kind of discouraged, and it was hard for me to get out to this guy's shop to work on this thing regularly, and it kind of sat and collected all this dust. Yeah, there's like an inch of dust on this thing, and it adds to the barn find feel. But eventually we'll get this thing out of here washed up. But my short-term goal is to get this thing where I can start it and move it around on its own without worrying about it, and rearrange my stuff. And that's one big step toward getting it running and driving to the point where I can hop in and go. So today I want to accomplish fuel line redo. I want to throw a battery in it. It's got an old 6-volt Optima that I bought when I first got it, and I don't know if it's any good, but I don't want to sit around here and wait for a battery to charge. So I got a new battery, I got a couple new sections of fuel line, a couple new fittings. We're gonna bend up some fuel line and see if we can get it to go. I do have another thing on the list that's not a today thing. The throttle on this thing, going from a downdraft or an updraft to a downdraft carb, it needs to be basically fabricated. So I'm working on building a bracket on this manifold. You can see in here where it's mocked up with my DeWalt clamp. I want to weld a couple nuts to the bottom of it and make it adjustable so I can make sure I get wide open throttle and make sure it returns all the way to idle. But the geometry that I've got going on seems to work, and then the factory throttle pedal will work. So then I should be able to move it around. So without more talking, let's talk more work. Let's start doing something. All right, I'm gonna try to give you guys a better look at what I got going on with a flashlight here. So there's a fitting at the bottom of the tank with the shutoff valve, and I bought the line that goes between there and the firewall, and I cut it up just to get those fittings off of it. But as you can see, if I get it closer, that is not the right size. This is the routing I'm gonna try and take. So I'm gonna try and run it out of the tank, down the firewall, into my filter there, which is just a little like stone filter element, and a little sediment bowl kind of thing. And I'm gonna keep this line because it's already made, the fittings are okay. And then I'm going to go into the electric pump here, back up, try to follow that as close as I can so what you see inside the car looks nice. Back out of the firewall right there. And yeah, so it shouldn't be too big of a project, but a project nonetheless. Well, I got my fittings cut off the lines, little clamp, 2 pieces of 5/16 lines, which I'm gonna hang on to because I'm gonna use that on the old case tractor outside, which is why we started here, so I can have stuff to move on to the next thing. And I've got a whole long list of projects that need to happen in a certain order so I can get certain things done at certain times. So anyway, I guess it's time to start bending up some lines. That's gonna be fun. Alright, I got one line made up, and going back and forth, checking stuff every time, every bend, double checking, always good. I was using this little file to just make a little mark on the line where my radius of my bend would start. And I was just taking my time, make sure I know which direction the bend is going, making sure my nut was on before starting bending stuff. And this is what I ended up with. It looks actually a little nicer than the first one that I made, which I like. And it just needs a flare and a fitting. And before I forget, while I'm talking to you guys about it, I'm gonna put that fitting on there, because everybody knows the laws of nature you'll have the most perfect flare you've ever done, and you'll realize you left the nut on the table. So I'm gonna throw a flare on this thing. I'm gonna just go ahead and get the other line made, and I'll bring you guys back when I got them all in there. All right, before I get stuck into this, I just wanted to touch on a couple things, because people seem to have trouble flaring stuff. This is a little bit funny because the cutter kind of crimped it in, but the number one key to success on flaring is prepping the end of your line. Make sure you got all the burrs off, make sure you got the inside cleared out, outside burr gone, smooth, flat. Make sure the face of the opening is nice and flat, perpendicular to the line. And if you make sure everything is centered up nice in the die, you run that, you cinch that, I don't even know what you call it, the yoke, cinch the yoke down nice and tight, and give it a nice clean surface. You will have a good flare. And don't be afraid to tighten those things down hard either. Sometimes they just need a little extra, you know, when they start to squeak a little bit, that's when they're tight. So just a couple tips and tricks. I'm gonna chuck a flare on the end of this. Alright, here's the end result. It is a tiny bit off center, but this line is very soft, and I think it will feel when it's tightened down, but the nut fits nice. Got a nice clean sealing surface on that flare. Back up a little bit for you guys. Yeah, should work just fine between brass and copper nickel. Should seal all right. Just a little tightening down should do the trick. So I'm gonna go stick this line in there so I can use it to form my next one. So they run right next to each other. Alright, I'm going to show you guys the final product here. Well, final for now, but check this out. So I got my lines in there. The only thing I don't like right now is my old clamp didn't fit around because it's a different size. But got those lines run between the tank, filter, through the pump, back up, through the firewall, through the sediment bowl, and then over here, comes out on this side. Oh geez. Well, I guess I gotta fix that. But the sediment bowl must have turned when I was tightening my line. It comes out there and goes to the carburetor. So let me take a minute. I'm gonna fix that sediment bowl so it's vertical like it should be. And I'm gonna try and find some gas to throw in there. I'm gonna throw a battery in it. Probably pull my Optima out and stick it on a charger, but I got a fresh 6-volt battery. Throw that in there. Even got a battery hold down, so this thing is going to fall on the ground. So I'll catch you guys in a bit. I don't make this easy, and I won't make it look easy either. There. One battery. I don't think I have the nuts that go on this hold down, but well, we won't call it a hold down, we'll call it a keep it there for now. Throw some nuts on it later. They look like 3/8 fine thread nuts, so it might be a trip to the hardware store. Yeah, that one's tight, that one's tight. Okay, battery. I want to see if my fuel pump powers up. I got this little switch wired right here. Ran some wire. Where's the wire even run? Down here. It's a little ground switch. Got it grounded back here. It powers a little relay over there that powers the pump. I can hear the pump trying, but it might be full of nasty gas or something, so might have more work cut out for us. Let's see if it cranks over just to see. All clear up here. Just gonna test the starter. I don't have the ignition on. Starter on these things is this button right here on the floor. She cranks, but I guess we got to figure out this fuel pump now. Oh, that gas smells horrible. So there's some gas in there now. Not much. I didn't want to get carried away. I wanted to see what kind of flow I had and what leaks, if any. So I might just crack these lines and see if I get fuel from the lines. See where it's coming, where it's going, all that good stuff. So let me grab a couple wrenches. I'm gonna crack this fitting here that I just tightened down. See if I got fuel coming out. If not, I know I don't have enough gas in there. I'm not getting anything. Oh. Not sure which way fuel is supposed to flow out of that, or which way the valve is on or off either. But I ain't getting nothing. I might have to just pop this bowl off too. And maybe I need more fuel. Okay, Okay, it smells like old gas in here, and I'll show you guys what I got happening here. I took that filter out, I took it apart, made sure it would flow good, and yes, it flows good. Yeah, okay, I just blew a bunch of gas through it, so there you have it. But anyway, well, lips are dried out now. I got the gas turned on right now, and the most gas I get out of here is this drip like every 5 seconds. I don't know if it's the new gas eating away at some nasty stuff at the bottom of the tank. It don't look good in there, but it's held fuel and flowed fuel before, so I'm not worried about that at this point. I just think it's full of nasty old varnish stuff. So I let the air compressor pump up, and just by the time it pumped up, this is how much fuel I have, and it's just getting a little bit more the longer I let it sit here. I was gonna blow some air up the line and see if it cleared anything out on the top side, and if it does, I should be able to shut it off with my shutoff valve. So I'm gonna put the camera down and see if that works, and watch your eyes. Well, I blew it up through there. I could hear it coming out the other side. Just waiting for a little more flow than that, dude. Maybe I had it turned off when I thought it was on. I'm gonna try and blow it with the valve the other way. Yeah, that's definitely off. I can feel the pressure against me there. But turn it back on. And so again, I feel like there should be more flow than that. I'm getting nothing. Kind of wild. That is not enough of a supply to supply a fuel pump, at least. Okay, well, we're getting something more here. Maybe I'll do this a few more times. Let the gas work at itself. Yeah, it's moving something now. Alright, after some fiddling around, some sitting around, I got something happening here. Check it out. I had fuel dripping out of this line. Let it sit, tighten this up, let it sit for a bit. Left this one open. After a little bit, fuel dripping out of here. Tighten that up, left this one open. Let it sit, fuel dripping. Didn't know if it was gonna work. Tighten this up, left this one loose, let it sit for a while, and next thing you know, I hear some fuel dripping. Tighten that guy up. Every time I would pop the switch for the fuel pump, it would go chunk, and I kept hitting it with a little screwdriver, letting it sit, hitting it again. I think it was just stuck because now I have this. Got a fuel pump that works, so sweet. I guess what I want to verify next is that I got fuel just flow. So I'm going to disconnect the carb line and put it in a bottle and see what happens. I might end up cleaning up that sediment bowl too, but let's just see what kind of flow we got. Okay, I got my water bottle set here, the fuel line going in. I'm gonna lift the other side of the hood so I can see better. and see if I'm filling that bottle up when I open the switch. I'm not getting anything so far. You can hear the tank doing stuff inside. I don't know if that pump is having a hard time drawing fluid. It's not primed. Okay, I can hear stuff in the tank. Nothing in the bottle yet. I can't see in there, but maybe you guys can. There's bubbles in there for some reason. Tell me this pump ain't going the wrong direction. But it might be. Wow, wouldn't that be something? Well, maybe we can feel the suction on this end. I think it's sucking instead of blowing. Easy way to fix that though. I'm gonna go shut it off before it kills itself. Alright. Let's try something different here. This I never really knew, but I'm just going to reverse the leads on here. Pretend like I meant for it to be this way. Now let's see what happens. Alright, we got our pump switched around. It still works. Oh, forgot my bottle. Before I make a mess. Put the bottle back. There it is. Oh no, get back here. Okay. Let's get the bottle back in there. And now that we've completely unprimed our fuel system, I don't know, let's just see what happens here. Maybe we can get that bottle to fill. Okay, the pump's doing something different. It's making some noises. Oh, I see fuel dropping into the sediment bowl. Oh, there it goes. Alright, hold on. Before I burn it up again. And as nasty as that bowl looks, I'm almost afraid to do it, but I think I'm gonna pop it off. Hope I can get a good seal on it. Put it back together. Because now I know I got fuel. Wow, what a time to be alive. Maybe I'll leave the bowl alone because it does not want to come off. And I don't want to find out or break it right now, so I'm gonna let you guys just watch this bottle fill up. Hopefully. Some nasty fuel. Maybe we'll use this as a flush. There it goes. Interesting flow we got going on here. Coming out in spurts. But that is not even the color of gas. Wow. Might just let this flush. I'm wondering if it's just too restricted on the inlet of the pump. Make sure this doesn't fall off in here. Alright, I'm going to go dump this bottle and we'll see if it clears up at all with a little more running. Let's give it another run. Alright, that's we're changing colors, and I think that I gave it a chance to gravity feed a little bit. It kind of primed itself, and now it's not shutting off. I'm going to shut off the fuel, which works like a charm. Maybe run another bottle through there, but for reference, that's after 2 tries. Alright, we'll give it another run. Fuel's on. It's flowing by itself, which is interesting. And it's looking a lot more yellow. I'm gonna go hit the pump again, see if it pumps any smoother. Wow. Alright. Before I waste any more go juice, I think I'm going to call that good enough. And see if we get a fuel to the carb and check for leaks. Oh, fries are done. Another round. Did you like your service today? Thank you. We got a ringer. I'm gonna pull this off so I can see what's happening down the throat, and so I can drop stuff everywhere. Yikes. If we're gonna fire this thing up, I'm gonna remove my little mock-up throttle cable. It's just gonna get a little warm. I had this thing running just off of spray, a little bit of gas down the throat, because I wanted to hear it after I moved it here. Come on, what's going on here? Just trying to get this bracket out of the way. And it fired, so hopefully we can, hold on a second. All right, just take the whole thing out of the question here. Bye. Okay, I'm gonna turn the fuel on and see what happens. Probably fuel will come out. I want to see if it's flooding or not. Or if the needle and seat can stop that flow. Don't know. Maybe I'll try and fire it up and see if it even needs the pump to run. All right, I'm gonna see if I can fire this thing up. I tried to dial a little bit of an idle into the carb, and here goes nothing. Waiting for fuel to fill that bowl. I got an accelerator pump. Squirting, it should have fuel. Found my first leak. The inlet to the sediment bowl is leaking pretty good when I hit that pump. Maybe my needle's stuck. Maybe I need to do the old tap trick. No accelerator pump yet. Maybe I'll pop these float bowl drains and see if I'm getting anything in the bowl. I can tell we're close. I don't think we're getting past the needle and seat in the carb. Nothing came out of the float bowl. So, also have a massive leak from the inlet of the sediment bowl on the fuel line, and I don't know if I can tighten it anymore. So there's that. I'm gonna try it real quick. See if I can hold it. Got a crank on that. I'm gonna run the pump and tap on the carb, I guess. See if I can free it. I'm not getting anything. I'm getting a lot of fuel out of the inlet of that sediment bowl. I think I'm gonna pop the top of the carb off and see if it's full of crap too. I rebuilt it, but with how long it's been sitting, I don't know if fuel made it up there and gummed up or whatever, but I'm gonna give that a try and see what we got. Because you don't know until you look sometimes. All right, I got the needle moving freely with the float. Little brake clean down there did the trick. Let's put it back together. This old carb, somebody painted it silver, and the paint's starting to come off a little bit because of gas and brake clean and whatnot, and it's on my fingers, but I don't know. I like things on this car to look old, and that definitely adds to the look. And my goal is I want things to look like there's a story behind it, because there is, but also I don't want things to look out of place either. But now we should get fuel to flow into our bowl, probably leak at the next point. And with the way the fuel is flowing, without the pump even running, we might not even need the pump to fire this thing up. So let me get this tightened on, this top. We'll check for accelerator pump operation once we fill the bowl up. But to have this thing running on its own fuel after so long of a discouraging project set aside, this will be very nice. This will feel good. I'm gonna turn the gas on and we'll see if that thing fills up. Hear the float going. No pump yet. I'm gonna crack those screws and see if there's fuel coming in. They're not float bowl drains, they're jet access screws, but they work for either. Okay, I'm getting nothing there, so I'm gonna turn the pump back on and see what happens. Weird that the pump wouldn't blow the needle off its seat, but let's see. Well, that's weird. The fuel's turned on. Nothing out of the bowl. All right, I'm gonna try something different here. I'm gonna take the body of the top of the hat of the carb back off with the fuel line still on, and then see if we can see anything here. Needle stuck again. Come on now. Maybe I can just move it here manually. All right. It flows when it flows. So I'm gonna put this back on, while it's filling up the bowl. I'm gonna crack a screw and see if I'm getting fuel out. That needle keeps sticking. That must be a really good little seal. All right, I'm just gonna let it run through there while I can watch it. It's almost like the float. Okay, I see what's happening. My float level is completely wrong, or it appears to be, because it hits the bottom of the carb and shuts the fuel off. So that's not gonna work. Turn the fuel supply off. I'm gonna take this back off for the 17th time and figure out how to set my float level correctly, because that is not correct. You don't want your float hitting the bottom of your bowl when there's nothing in the bowl. Closing the needle, won't let any fuel in. It's kind of making sense. Just let that fill up the bowl for me. Hey, hey, I'm back. Got my float level set up. Whoa. I set it according to some spec I found on Google. I'm just gonna check and see. I don't hear it hitting the bottom. It was way off. I probably didn't deal with it at all when I rebuilt this thing because I just wanted to see if it would work. And when it didn't work, I didn't work on it anymore. So that's my way of explaining that one. But I'm gonna put this back on. We're gonna try this again and see what happens. And I got a feeling we'll get fuel because that's how logic works. And I have a lot of buzzing insects floating around above my head. That's kind of unnerving for me. Just tighten these back up. I don't get crazy on tighten because someday you're gonna have to loosen. As long as it doesn't leak, it's fine. Got little lock washers in, it's not like it's gonna fall off. All right, I don't even know what round number we're up to, but we're getting close to firing it up, I think. Okay, I'm gonna turn the fuel back on. Let's see if the bowl fills up. That needle was still a little sticky too. Let's see if that jet hole makes it start dripping. Yeah, it's dripping a little bit. Just want to make sure that seat, that needle's opened up. No pump yet. I'm gonna hit the fuel pump and see if that helps it fill up a little bit. Alright, just a few seconds. Should be fine. Oh yeah. Got accelerator pump, got fuel flow, got a big old fuel leak. Let's see if this thing fires up. We'll do a little fiddling, maybe a little squirting. It also might want a little choke, which we have. We'll give it like partial choke. Try it with a fuel pump on. Oh, nice. Guess we forgot to turn the gas on. Only one guy working here. It was me. Let's get rid of choke again. Now we got fuel coming in. I'm just gonna let this thing sit for a little bit. Make sure everything gets filled up nice. The fuel pump's still a little unhappy. But I think the more we run it, the better, or the worse it'll get. So, all right, let's try this again. Starter has seen better days on this thing. Try not to burn it up either. There's some nice fuel. See if that pops it off. smoky in here. Well, in case you guys were wondering, that's what a Model A engine sounds like stock on open split pipes. Kind of wild. Smells very rich, and I believe it. I don't know what jets are in this carb or anything, but hearing this thing run for more than 2 seconds just makes me so happy. And there's my fuel leak. Very nice. Let's see what that looks like inside. Yeah, it's coming down. That might need a different flare on that deal, but it's pulling its own fuel, which is interesting. Some old timers on the forums would say you didn't need a fuel pump, and I might be the guy who didn't need one and put one in anyway. But I tell you what, I'm probably not going to get rid of it unless I can't make that thing stop leaking. I think these are probably supposed to be regular flares, not double flares or inverted flares, like come on these lines. The one over here on the tank outlet isn't leaking, but it's not under pressure. This one's under pressure. It was never really designed to be under pressure. So I don't know. If it feeds itself fine, the fuel pump might just be a backup plan for like going up a hill with a low tank of gas or whatever. You hit the fuel pump and see what happens. Like get a little bit more juice to the carb. But I don't really care right now. This thing was running. I think I'm gonna fire it back up and see what it does. All right, I educated myself a little bit. Probably not enough, but enough to be dangerous. I'm gonna fire this thing up again. See what happens. Oof, almost fell over. Fuel turned on to make a mess. With the timing advantage. It's pretty clear I got some tuning to do on this thing, and that is not unexpected at all when you start messing things up and trying to build a little hot rod. So we'll save that for a different day, but I'm pretty happy about that. Well, I think that's where I'm gonna call it for this one. Got some fuel lines made, got some leaks made, figured out a carb flow issue, put in a battery, got the car running. So appreciate you guys sticking around this long. I got things to do today, so till next time.